he's been conditioned since he was a kid, since before his father was assassinated. His own father said of him that he's most like the president, meaning his brother JFK. So he's been conditioned very, very young age that he was the one who was going to be the heir to Camelot. He was going to be president one day. And so he also says in the diaries at one point, when he's being very reflexive, he says, you know, I know daddy, and he calls him daddy. I know daddy was in heaven looking down on me and I was failing him. So when his father died, he was 14 years old. And he's taken over by, you know, his mom doesn't really have time for him. She's going through her own grief. She's pregnant with her 11th child. And so Lem Billings, who's a Kennedy acolyte and a close friend of the family's, becomes this surrogate father to him. And his whole time with him, it's like, you are going to be president one day. You are going to be the one that takes this family forward. So this has been drilled into him his whole life. So I'm not surprised I wasn't surprised when he ran for president. And he's been coy and said, oh, I'm not running I'm not going to run for president in 2028. I don't believe that. I think you're going to see him run for president.
And what makes you think that he won't believe that? What does your reporting say?
That he just from everything I've seen from people I've talked to who are close to him, that yes, he's definitely going to do it. I mean, he's put himself out there as, first of all, he's realized one of his big dreams is to be part of the presidential cabinet. This is a guy who in his Westchester home had framed letters from every single president of the United States. He loves the presidency. It's a big honor for him to be part of this administration in the cabinet. So from what I'm seeing is that he is going to go forward. Now, whether he's going to run as a Republican would be super interesting, right? And historic.
What about Cheryl Hines, his wife? How does she feel about that? She was pretty humiliated recently.
Well, I think that, it's a marriage of convenience at this point. She's gotten a lot of, let's start with the $600,000 advance that she got for Unscripted, her book about, her autobiography. I mean, this is a result of being Kennedy adjacent. I mean, Kennedy before he became HHS secretary, he had a retainer with his publishing house, Skyhorse Publishing, to bring in new works. And among those new works was Cheryl's memoir. So she's got a lot to win at this point by being close to him.
She wasn't, her acting career did not really take off, let's be honest.
Right. And what did she do when Kennedy was, during that time that he was running for president? Didn't she have a cosmetics line with her daughter? And wasn't there that crazy Instagram post where Kennedy was in the shower nude, like you could see him from the back, and she was like hawking her cosmetics? I mean, I don't think that was accidental. I think.
What about the reporter? I mean, what happened with
Olivia
and RFK? Yeah, how did that impact their family?
Right. So she, in her memoir, talks about how they got over it. It was a bad scene, but we talked about it. We sat in our car and we talked for hours about it. Maybe they did, but I think it was, from everybody that I've spoken to, they almost ended their marriage over that, because he, having read what I've read and having studied him, and he's been in my head for like 13 years. I don't think that he stopped his, whatever you want to call it, his trysts with other women just because he's married. I mean, I'm willing to bet that didn't stop.
Yeah, it's a psychological addiction.
So I think that there was a pact made that he didn't want to have another divorce if he was going to be serious about political office. Yeah. And so I think that that's where it stands.
Okay. So it's a marriage for the future. I covered the Department of Health and Human Services, and what I found was that he basically got rid of everyone inside of the communication shop that were there, a lot of them civil servants, and when he did use the civil servants, he was trying to use them as a sort of hype machine for himself, and his persona. Like, he wanted to use resources from the Health and Human Services to promote himself and to disperse disinformation. Do you think that do you see that as part of what he thinks is his role?
Well, I mean, that's very interesting, because what have we seen? We've seen him turn into a cartoon character, right? Like, he's punching out a Twinkie in one cartoon or one meme that he's got up. He's got those videos of being in the sauna with Kid Rock and, going into a cold pool with his jeans. I think it's all part of, this myth making of Robert Kennedy Jr. Whether it's effective with his base, I'm sure it is. He's putting his message across, and I'm not surprised at what he's done with Health and Human Services, because this is a pattern of behavior that began when he was at Riverkeeper. I mean, he annoyed everybody at Riverkeeper with his ideas.
This is the environmental group.
Exactly. And they kept him on. Why? Because he's a Kennedy. And so Kennedy brought in a ton of donations to that group. I'm not saying he didn't do stuff that was important. He did do a lot in cleaning up the Hudson, in bringing the Hudson River, and in bringing awareness to that. But at the same time, there was this trade-off. Oh, a Kennedy is going to bring us a lot of money, which it did.
Do you think he's satisfied with his tenure? Because a lot of people seem to think that supported and feel like he hasn't done enough, frankly.
I think from talking to friends and people who have known him for, decades, that he really believes that what he's doing is great, and that he really believes that he's helping people. So whether he's satisfied, I think he realizes that maybe he's got a long way to go. And this is what drives him.
Yeah. I've pointed out to friends that I've heard that he has met with lobbyists from various organizations, pharmaceutical, food, that they are not happy about. I mean, they expected a purity test from him that I don't think he's frankly reached at HHS.
Right. And this again is part of his MO. Like, he's going to grab onto an idea, and he doesn't care what the science says, what everybody else says. It's this like obdurate, stubborn behavior, and he's just going to go forward with what he believes.
Yeah, I mean, just watching him in these congressional hearings, he refuses to back down. He refuses to give an inch. Does he really believe the things he says?
I think so. Yeah, from everybody I've talked to. But didn't he give an inch on the oncology drug, the one that everybody wanted approved this week, and then he was asked about it, I think yesterday, and he said, "Oh, I got to go back and look at it." So he kind of, he kind of gave an inch there, but he's incredibly stubborn, and people will tell you that. Like, when he was at Riverkeeper, he wanted to commercialize like the Hudson River's water. He wanted to bottle the water and sell it. And everybody was completely against this as a crazy idea for an environmental group to do. But he went ahead with it. He had these taste testings. He brought it to his sister Rory's wedding, which became a tragic event when JFK Jr. and his wife and her sister died in the plane crash. But he had like boxes and boxes of water in his car, so you could do taste tests at the wedding. And and Riverkeeper was completely against this.
Wow. He's pretty matter of fact about depression in his diary, and he seems self-aware when it comes to that. Do you think he has self-awareness, or only like at times self-awareness, or on certain things he can really grab onto, and certain things he lives in a
so there were days I really liked him, because I felt he was really self-aware, and he was bringing in philosophy and religion, and he knows how he acts. And when he would talk about going to Hollywood, for instance, and talking about how it's always his downfall there with women. Like, he can't help himself. So he knew, right? But did he do anything about it? And he admits that he failed a lot of times. And so, you have those passages where you think, okay, he's going to do something. He's going going to rise to the occasion. But then, and then there's entry after entry about how he doesn't understand what his wife is going through, what Mary is going through with her depression and her, addiction. But then there are passages where, oh, we're going to pray together, we're going to get through this. So it's a duality, I think, is the best way to explain it.